You ever ride a bike that feels like it's actively plotting your death? Yeah, some of these machines didn't just flirt with danger, they took it home to meet the parents. From Kawasaki's unhinged Widowmakers to Bimota's engineering meltdown, these are 10 motorcycles so bad they became legends for all the wrong reasons. Now before we get started, tap that like button, hit the new hype button, and let's talk about the bikes that probably should have stayed on the drawing board. Well, let's kick this off with the granddaddy of dangerous motorcycles, the Kawasaki H1 Mach 3. This 500cc triple earned its nickname the Widowmaker the hard way. And trust me, it wasn't because it looked scary in the showroom. Picture this, you've got a rocket ship engine stuffed into a chassis that was about as sophisticated as a shopping cart. Now the H1 was a straight-line monster that could hit some serious speed, but the moment you asked it to do anything else, like turn or stop, things got biblical real quick. Now the problem wasn't just the power, it was everything else. The frame was flimsy, the brakes were a joke, and the suspension? Let's just say it had all the damping characteristics of a pogo stick. Riders would hit the throttle and pray that they could keep it pointed in the right direction. The H1's handling was so notoriously poor that it became a rite of passage for experienced riders. If you could tame a Mach 3, you could ride anything. But here's the kicker, most people couldn't. The bike didn't just demand respect, it demanded a will and testament. Not content with the chaos they'd already unleashed, Kawasaki looked at the H1 and thought, you know what this needs? More power. Enter the H2 Mach 4, a 750cc version that took everything wrong with the H1 and cracked it up to 11. The H2 inherited all the same dangerous handling characteristics as its smaller sibling, but now with even more power to get you into trouble faster. The bigger engine meant more weight, but the chassis improvements? Minimal at best. This wasn't evolution, it was escalation. The H2 became the bike that separated the truly fearless from the merely reckless. It was a machine that could humble even the most experienced riders, and it did so with alarming regularity. The braking issues were even worse on the H2. Trying to slow down this beast was like trying to stop a freight train with a butterfly net. Many riders learned the hard way that the H2's appetite for speed far exceeded its ability to shed it safely. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The Bimota V-Due wasn't just a bad motorcycle. It was an engineering catastrophe wrapped in Italian beauty that literally bankrupted the company that made it. On paper, the V-Due should have been revolutionary. A 500cc two-stroke V-twin with dual fuel injection, designed to meet EPA requirements while delivering some serious performance. It looked absolutely stunning, with that distinctive Bimota styling that made other bikes look like they were designed by accountants. But here's where the dream turned into a nightmare. The electronic fuel injection system was deeply flawed, causing major problems like piston seizures and power delivery so inconsistent it made the bike barely rideable. We're talking about a machine that would run perfectly 1 minute and then decide to have a mechanical breakdown the next. The V-Due was so problematic that Bimota had to buy back many of the first 185 examples built. Think about that. A motorcycle company had to essentially admit their flagship product was so bad they'd rather take it back than let customers suffer with it. The ensuing recalls and financial troubles from this disaster almost destroyed the Bimota brand entirely. It's one thing to build a bad bike. It's another to build one so catastrophically flawed that it takes down your entire company. The Norton F1 Rotary was supposed to showcase the future of motorcycle engines. Instead, it showcased how to turn a promising concept into a reliability nightmare that would make owners question their life choices. The Rotary engine was a bold idea, smooth, powerful, and theoretically more reliable than conventional piston engines. But theory and reality are two very different things, especially when you're stuck in traffic watching your temperature gauge climb into the danger zone. Early models were plagued with poor idling and severe overheating problems, especially in city traffic. This created a riding experience that was less smooth rotary power and more, will I make it home before this thing cooks itself? The overheating issues weren't just inconvenient, they were engine killing. Riders learned to avoid traffic jams like the plague, turning what should have been a practical motorcycle into a fair-weather friend that demanded constant attention and babying. Moving into the dirt, let's talk about what many consider the worst motocross bike of all time, the Suzuki TM400 Cyclone. Now this thing had such a notorious reputation that vintage ads actually read, "Possible injury forces sale." When your own marketing department is warning people about injury, you know you've got problems. The TM400's explosive and unpredictable power band was paired with a famously unstable chassis that made it a terror to ride. The bike's reputation for bucking riders off and throwing them off course was so widespread that it became a running joke in the motocross community. But the real problem was the suspension. Those shocks would last about 10 minutes before trying to eject the rider into orbit. The frame flexed so badly it would bind up under load and then snap back like a spring when you rolled off the throttle, usually launching unexpected riders into the weeds. The TM400 was heavy, unwieldy, and had a power band that was basically a light switch. Either nothing or everything, with no middle ground. It was a kind of bike that could make even experienced riders look like beginners. The 1983 Maico 490 is a perfect example of how quickly a legendary brand can fall from grace. Maico had built their reputation on bikes that handled like dreams, but the 1983 490 was a nightmare that helped kill the company. The problem started with the new monoshock system, which was poorly designed and resulted in numerous broken shocks and injured riders. But that was just the beginning. Rear hubs were exploding, transmissions were coming apart, and riders were furious when their expensive Maicos failed catastrophically. The switch from the twin-shock Mega 2 to the single shock required to stay competitive saw an unprecedented number of shock shaft breakages. Loyal Maico riders scrambled to find replacement shocks, but the real problem was Maico's overly aggressive rising rate linkage that put too much stress on the components. This wasn't just poor engineering, it was the beginning of the end for one of motocross's most respected brands. The bitter family feud at Maico, combined with these mechanical disasters, set the stage for the company's spectacular crash. Perhaps no machine in motocross history was as hotly anticipated as the 1981 Honda CR450R. Riders had been begging Honda for a big-bore machine for years, and when it finally arrived, it was one of the most confused and disappointing machines ever to hit the showroom floor. The CR450R's motor was terrible, and that's being kind. Instead of building a proper open-class engine, Honda basically bored and stroked their existing CR250 motor. The result was a 431cc engine that ran like a big 125, with a razor-thin power band and a light flywheel that made it easy to stall. But the real killer was a 4-speed transmission with hopelessly spaced gears. The power band was so narrow and the gears so poorly matched that riders were constantly in the wrong gear. You could either rev it out and watch it fall flat, or short-shift it and bog the engine. Now the chassis wasn't much better. The bike would headshake at speed like a wet dog, and the suspension was a confused mess of mismatched components that couldn't work together. About the only thing the CR450R did well was turn, but good luck getting there in one piece. The Yamaha SC500 earned nicknames like the Leg Breaker and the Widowmaker, and those weren't terms of endearment. This bike had a specific timing flaw that could cause sudden, massive power surges that would catch riders completely off guard. The SC500's timing issue meant that sometimes the power would kick in at 3,500 RPM, sometimes at 5,500 RPM, and sometimes it would just sputter and cough. When it did hit, it hit like a freight train, often sending riders flying. The 498cc single was virtually impossible to jet correctly. It would sputter, cough, and stall constantly, and the throttle response was so terrible that one tester described it as having less low-end power than a good running 125. Then, when it finally cleaned out, all 40 horsepower would arrive in one explosive rush. The chassis was even worse than the motor. Poor weight balance resulted in an overly light front end that would wash out in corners or wheelie uncontrollably. At speed, it would shake violently enough to rip the bars from your hands and swap side to side like it had a hinge in the middle. The 1997 Honda CR250R was supposed to be revolutionary, the first production motocross bike with an aluminum frame. Instead, it became the bike so bad it forced Jeremy McGrath, the king of Supercross, to flee Honda entirely. The aluminum frame was unbelievably stiff, creating a harsh ride that transmitted every bump straight to the rider. Honda had gotten spooked during development and kept adding material to prevent cracking, but this made the chassis so rigid that the suspension couldn't work properly. McGrath had some choice words for this machine. It had to be the worst bike ever made, and simply called it a death machine. When the sport's biggest star abandons the brand he helped build because of one bike, you know something went seriously wrong. The bike looked futuristic and striking, but underneath that exotic aluminum frame was a machine that was incredibly difficult to ride. The stiff chassis caused problems with suspension setup, and riders found their confidence shattered by the bike's harsh and unforgiving nature. And rounding out our list is the Can-Am 250 MX3, a bike so poorly designed it made other bad bikes look competent by comparison. This machine was known for its unstable chassis and geometry that made it resist turning like it was actively fighting the rider. The 250 MX3 had a problematic plastic gas tank that would rock and leak due to insufficient padding and poor mounting. The rear fender had terrible design and support, making it difficult to lift the bike if it ever got stuck. Even basic components like the clutch required significant force and could stick between rides. On tight trails or bumpy terrain, the bike would buck and feel wildly out of control, requiring tremendous effort just to keep it pointed in the right direction. The handling was so poor that riders described it as having a mind of its own, and not in a good way. The fork seals and boots were prone to failure, and the overall lack of rear fender support made basic maintenance a nightmare. This wasn't just a bad bike, it was a poorly thought-out machine that seemed designed to frustrate riders at every turn. Now these bikes proved that not every bold idea deserves a production line. From Kawasaki's death-defying triples to Bimota's company-killing V-Due, each one earned its reputation the hard way, through bad engineering, worse handling, and a bit of blind optimism. Power without control is useless, and innovation without testing, well, that's just dangerous. But every failure pushed the industry forward. Modern bikes are safer, faster, and smarter because of these disasters. So the next time you twist the throttle on something reliable, take a second to appreciate the chaos that got us here. Not all legends are good ones. Now, if you enjoyed this ride through motorcycle mayhem, hit that like button, smash the new hype button, and drop a comment telling me which bike you think deserves a spot on this list. And subscribe for more real rider stories. And as always, ride safe out there.